What is going on, Laker fans? Thank you very much for tuning in. As you can imagine, we got a lot to get into tonight, so I appreciate you guys all being a part of the show. The regular season is in the books. Only thing left now in front of the Lakers is the play-in tournament. I know people are ready. Hey, let's talk about Memphis, Lakers Sunday. How about we just get through the play-in tournament? Looking forward to break down a little bit of this matchup against the Timberwolves tomorrow. Get a chance also to talk about, I want to spend a little time kind of recapping the season, not too much, but just some areas that I think is important to recognize as we get to the play-in tournament, how the Lakers started out 2-10. Also, some of these other playoff matchups, specifically in the Western Conference, kind of interesting. I think it's going to be an exciting West. I think you have a number of teams that have a shot that could come out of the Western Conference. And then Alan Horton, who does the play-by-play radio for the Minnesota Timberwolves, will join us in about a half hour. He's come on a few different times during the season for the pregame show. I thought perfect time to have him on today to talk about the heck is going on in Minnesota. Still can't really understand these last 24 hours for the Timberwolves, but not our problem. All we got to do is take care of our own business. So the matchup set tomorrow for the play-in. We know that. Lakers ended up finishing the season 43-39. They were 33-49 last season, if you guys remember. Obviously, a significant improvement there. I mean, heck, when they started out 2-10, I know a lot of Laker fans, including myself. I'm like, well, looks like nothing's going to change. So the entire year, the Lakers were obviously trying to climb back. They take on a Minnesota Timberwolves team that I can't really understand what exactly, happened in these last, like I mentioned, 24 hours. But I know Rudy Gobert, he's not going to be playing, not making the trip to L.A. Jaden McDaniels, he's not going to be playing. Two of the best defenders on their team, but they still got, obviously, Anthony Edwards. They got Karl Anthony Towns. Mike Conley, a nice player as well, a veteran that's been in this league for a long time. So we'll get into the Minnesota Timberwolves. But tomorrow, 7 p.m., Crypto.com Arena. Pregame show will start at 5:30. Should be a fun matchup at Crypto.com. It's interesting when you look back at what was the changing point of this season. We just watched the Lakers or listened to the Lakers for 82 games. Plus, we had the 6 preseason games. So we got a chance to see, all right, what is this Lakers team? And it feels like they had a few different seasons within a season. And that had to do with injuries. That had to do with players in. That had to do with players out. That had to do with, and I'm talking about star players in and out of the lineup. And then it had to do with, obviously, the most important date, in my opinion, for the Los Angeles Lakers this year. It was that trade deadline. Lakers, when you start a season out 2-10, you're not really expecting all that much to change. The Lakers tried climbing back all season long just to get back to 500. And they did it within this last, week and a half or so, 2 weeks at the most. They finished the season out 43-39. And I'm going to throw a date at you guys, and I think most of you guys remember the date. The trade deadline was February 9th. The Lakers made a deal for Rui Hachimura 2 weeks before the trade deadline. And then the day before the trade deadline, they made another move. That was the move that Malik Beasley, Jared Vanderbilt, and D'Angelo Russell all became Lakers. And then the day of is when they traded for Mo Bamba as well. This was right before the trade deadline had expired on February 9th. That is the difference of the Lakers season. And I know some people are going to say, oh, no, it's because LeBron came back and he's healthy. Or it's, no, Anthony Davis came back and he's healthy. You're not wrong when you make that argument, but I watched a lot of basketball over the last year and a half, 2 years now, where the Lakers had LeBron James, they had Anthony Davis, and they also had Russell Westbrook. And the Lakers were not going anywhere with those three. So it's not like when those three played together, they were unstoppable, and the only reason why the Lakers were having trouble is because those three weren't playing together. That certainly wasn't the case this year. The changing point of the Lakers season was that trade deadline. They went 18-8 to finish up the year. 18-8. if you start the season out, if the Lakers had to, got an opportunity and they had this core of guys and they had this group and Austin Reeves continuing to develop, Dennis Schroeder, knowing his role and what he needs to do, and then all these new guys that you brought in that have been contributing for the Lakers, if you started the season 18-8, you're probably first or second place in the Western Conference, and you're just going from there. Okay, what can we do? By the way, in that 18-8 stretch, LeBron James didn't play 13 games. D'Angelo Russell missed 8 or 9 games, somewhere along those lines. AD missed 2 games because of back-to-backs. So it's not even like they've had everybody there and they have all this great continuity. I mean, Bron came back and played the final 8 games of the season. Nobody really thought that was going to happen. They thought, man, he's probably going to come back the final week. Will he make it in time for the play-in? Will he have some time to play with some of his guys? The answer is yes, he did get time. And at least over this stretch of games, AD's looked healthy. Bron has looked healthy. That doesn't mean that they're perfect. That doesn't mean that I'm sure there isn't bumps and bruises. Like anyone playing in the NBA at this time of the year, I'm sure there's a lot of bumps and bruises. But 18-8 over those final 26 games. And the reason why I keep harping on it, I want to give credit to where I think credit is due. And where credit is due is that front office and Rob Pelinka changed the Lakers season before February 9th, period. These last couple of years, the Lakers, yes, Anthony Davis, I think, played 40 games last year, 36 in the year prior. And I want to say that year that he played 36, there was only 72 games. I think I could be off by a little bit. But that was coming off the COVID season, so they had to adjust everything. The season was changed right at that trade deadline. And again, you give credit where credit is due. And I give a lot of that credit to Rob Pelinka in that front office because what the Lakers now have is they have a shot. And that's all you can ask for. And what's going to happen in tomorrow's game is if the Lakers team that we've got a chance to watch here over this stretch of the last, let's say, month and a half, if it's that team that comes out and if it's that team that seems to have, all right, you don't have to depend all on just LeBron James. Okay, AD can give you 30 and 15 and 3 blocks and 2 steals, but if AD doesn't have it going or throwing a double, Austin Reeves can get you 25. And D'Angelo Russell can dish out 10 dimes and have 18 or 20 points or whatever the case is. And Malik Beasley can come in off the bench and hit threes. And Vanderbilt knows his whole role. And Wenyen does. And Troy Brown, this, that. You kind of go through the whole thing. They have just a shot at hanging with any team in the Western Conference. Now, you got to get through this first game of the play-in, and I'll talk a little bit about how I don't want people to overlook that. I felt like today, doing the show with Trav, there was a little bit of, oh, yeah, tomorrow it's done. It's over. Okay, I get it. I get the confidence. I get why Laker fans or other people should be confident about that game tomorrow. However, it's not like you're just going to show up to work and they're going to hand you the win and say, all right, cool, we'll just go back to Minnesota and then hope to get the number 8 seed. I don't think that's going to be the case for tomorrow. Not to say that I don't think the Lakers aren't going to win. I do think they're going to win, but I think there's a game to be played, and we'll see how it all plays out. But for as much as we have looked at the trade that the Lakers made a year and a half ago, and as much as we looked at what Pelinka and the front office and their responsibility of bringing Russell Westbrook in and how much it didn't work, and when the season was over, that you started this season with him as well, and we had to wait all the way till right to the eve of the trade deadline to move on from that contract and to get some players in. Okay, maybe the timing wasn't perfect. We know that trade didn't work out when they did it a year and a half ago or almost 2 years ago now, but I'm also going to give credit where I feel like credit is due. And the Lakers are sitting here today, 18-8 in their last 26 games, and it's not just because of LeBron James, and it's not just because of Anthony Davis. It's because there was a couple moves that were made right before the deadline, and those moves are the reason why the Lakers are sitting where they're sitting at today. Yes, if Anthony Davis is not there for a big stretch of those games, we're probably not even talking about it, but I go back to it. I saw LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Russ play together for a long time. It didn't look like anything was going to change. So you got the proper pieces. You got the right role players. You got another playmaker in D'Angelo. And now let's see if the Lakers can go handle some business tomorrow against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Quick shout out here. As always, a proud partner of Lakers Talk, Valvoline Instant Oil Change. I will be there tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. when they open, and I will get my service done. Why? Because it only takes about 15 minutes. Top-notch service, professionals everywhere you look, oil changes, tire rotations, transmission care, and more. Just pull up, drive in, and drive out. In about 15 minutes, you can visit SoCalOilChange.com to get all your information where their locations are. Okay, I want to spend a little time on this when we come back. So tomorrow the Lakers got the Minnesota Timberwolves. I want to spend a little time on what the Lakers have to make sure they do to walk away with tomorrow and get, I think, what's going to be Wednesday off, Thursday off, Friday off, Saturday off, and then play play the Memphis Grizzlies on Sunday. What they need to do to assure themselves a W tomorrow. And I also want to talk about some things over the last week that was not good basketball from the Los Angeles Lakers. And I hope that was just getting to the finish line, and that's not something that will present itself at any point tomorrow. So we'll do that. I mentioned Alan Horton's going to come on at 7:30. If you're out driving around and you want to be a part of Lakers Talk, or you're listening on the app, 877-710-ESPN, 877-710-ESPN. I'll take some of your phone calls as well, and we'll start talking about this matchup tomorrow. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. This is Lakers Talk on 710 ESPN.
This episode is brought to you by Starbucks Double Shot Energy, the perfect pick-me-up for your mental focus. B vitamins, guarana, and ginseng give you the energy to power through. With several delicious flavors to choose from, including vanilla, mocha, and white chocolate, there's a taste for any occasion. Fuel your focus. Starbucks Double Shot Energy is available online, at grocery stores, convenience stores, and gas stations nationwide.
To some, safe is a boring word. Slow, deliberate. At Volvo Cars, we define safety as freedom. Freedom to have more dance parties. Freedom to take more confident leaps. Freedom for more adventures. And with new technology like a 2-sensor driver understanding system designed to prevent distractions and help you stay focused, Volvo Cars is changing what it means to feel safe. Because when you feel safe, you can truly be free. Visit volvocars.com/forlife to learn more.
All right, Lakers and the Minnesota Timberwolves tomorrow. You know, one of the things that I respect so much about the Timberwolves right now at the end of the season is their cohesiveness. I mean, what a great chemistry walking into the play-in tournament. What the heck was that yesterday? What was going on over there? And, by the way, what's crazy, and if you don't know, I'm sure everybody knows, but Rudy Gobert is serving a 1-game suspension. So he's expected to return if the Wolves lose to the Lakers and play another play-in game. Or if they beat the Lakers, then they would play that 2-7 matchup. They'd get the Memphis Grizzlies, and he'd be there. I'm surprised, actually, that this is what the Minnesota Timberwolves have decided. I thought, you know, in a lot of situations like this, first off, idiotic from Rudy Gobert. Okay, I'm not telling you that, you know, Woj has a little bit more details of what was said, that Gobert had no intent of hurting Kyle Anderson, but Gobert called him the B word repeatedly. Okay, all that stuff. Fine. I understand it. You don't want to be disrespected. Gobert, wait till halftime. Go into the locker room where there's no cameras and there's nobody there and go do whatever the hell you need to do. To do it right in front of the cameras on the final day of the regular season where everyone, the most meaningful game by far was the Pelicans and the Timberwolves. That was the game that was going to determine some seeding. That was the game that was going to determine who the Lakers were going to play. If the Clippers and the Golden State Warriors took care of business, it was idiotic. So I don't really have – I have no defense for it. For some people say, well, I'm okay, I get it, because he said this. I'm sure guys are running their mouths all the time. Don't put yourself in that position. Jaden McDaniels punching a wall on his way to the locker room at halftime. All right, now he's out. So a couple of these moves for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I can't make any sense of it. But what it does do, it does clearly benefit the Lakers for tomorrow. And the Lakers already are playing good basketball, already have home court advantage. So the Minnesota Timberwolves, let's just say, have dug themselves a hole. out of sheer stupidity. I don't have another way to explain it here. I'm just trying to be honest here. That is idiotic of what Gobert and what Jaden McDaniels did yesterday. They both will not be in the game tomorrow. This is my one concern for tomorrow. My one concern. First off, you get to the finish line. You finally got there. You grinded through 82 games. You know what your reward is through 82 games, and you ended up 18-8 over the final 26 games, and you actually ended up 4 games over 500. And I know some people say, okay, that's not quite an accomplishment that they're 4 games over 500. Trust me, this year, I think a lot of people are surprised that they ended up 4 games over 500. But your reward after doing all that is cool. You have 36 hours and then another game coming up against the Minnesota Timberwolves. So the Lakers did not get much of a reward like other teams did, and that's fine. It came down to the game against the Clippers. If you beat the Clippers, you would have got, 8 days off or something along those lines, and you got to avoid the play-in tournament. That was not in the cards for the Lakers, and even finishing 18-8, it wasn't enough to avoid the play-in tournament. My concern for tomorrow is Lakers have been lackadaisical for the last week, period. They got lucky when they beat the Utah Jazz in Utah, and they had to go to overtime in that game. They came back the next night, were clearly tired against the Clippers, and I respect their hustle and down 19 and down 21 and fighting, all that stuff. Great. They hurt themselves by losing that game against the Utah Jazz. They had zero interest in playing the Phoenix Suns on Friday, and they had zero interest in playing the Utah Jazz on Sunday, who were missing every important player that you could possibly think of. Both of those teams missed. They sat them all. They had no interest. The Jazz have no interest in winning any more games, and the Suns clearly are just waiting for the postseason to start. The last week of Lakers basketball was not good basketball. And if you want to try to justify this, that's fine. You could do that. And I think the Lakers are going to be fine tomorrow against the Minnesota Timberwolves, but it's not like they did what the Golden State Warriors did yesterday and said, cool, we have a chance. Let's end this game as soon as possible against the Portland Trail Blazers. Let's not let them hang around, and then let's call it a day. And let's not play with our food is, I think, the best way to describe it. The Lakers, on the other hand, play with their food all the time. And they've done two things here. One thing they've done is in big games like the game at Minnesota a week and a half ago, they have demoralized teams, and they go out there. I know it took them a half. Then they were down 13 in the third quarter, but then they hit a point where the defense just completely took over, and they ripped the hearts out of the Minnesota Timberwolves. And that was the difference of the Lakers hosting this game tomorrow than having to go to Minnesota. But for a game like that where they just dominated, that game against the Pelicans in New Orleans a couple weeks ago where they dominated, big games like that, they've also had some clunkers where it's like, all right, are we just going to – do we have no interest in this game until there's 6 minutes left and then they're going to pull away and end up winning by 8, 10, 12 because they know the talent is there? The answer is yes. That's what they did basically over the last week, minus that Clippers game where they were down 19 at halftime and were basically playing from behind the entire way. The Lakers have a better team than the Minnesota Timberwolves. I don't question that the Lakers can't handle business tomorrow. You just want to make sure that, right out the gate tomorrow, it's not one of those, all right, well, it's actually Minnesota that set the tempo and they're up 6 or 7 by the time the first quarter is done. Or by the time you get to halftime, it's a 2-point game and Minnesota's feeling more and more confident, like, guys, we're kind of hanging in here. Even with not having a couple of our main guys, we're hanging around. We have an opportunity to win this game. You don't want to walk into the fourth quarter and it's a one-possession ball game and, you're not giving that Crypto.com arena, you're not giving that crowd an opportunity to just erupt. Anthony Edwards can drop 35 any night. Karl Anthony Towns can drop 35 any night. Mike Conley is a veteran point guard that's been in this position a lot of times. So the Lakers clearly have more talent, are playing better basketball as of late, have, I think, all the pieces you need to handle business tomorrow, and there's a clear advantage for the Lakers. If they win tomorrow, like I said, you're not playing another game until Sunday. And for a team like them. I wonder, too, is there any – they've been basically playing must-wins for the past 30 days. I wonder if there's any fatigue that sets in. You didn't get a chance to kind of take a deep breath. It was like, all right, you played the game on Sunday, and then it's a quick turnaround. You had the game on Friday. You had back-to-back when you played Tuesday and Wednesday and a game on Sunday before. Lakers have been just stockpiling these games over these last couple of weeks. You don't want to see them run into a game tomorrow where the fatigue sets in a little bit, or that shooting that you depend on isn't going, or AD gets a couple quick fouls on Karl Anthony Towns. There is scenarios to where this is a game in the fourth quarter. I don't believe it's just step on the floor tomorrow and the Minnesota Timberwolves have no interest. Now, do I think the Lakers are going to win the game? I do. I just hope the version that we saw of the Lakers in that big game against the Minnesota Timberwolves, where they just literally demoralized that team, I hope that's the type of team that we see rather than the team that we saw in this last week, that in many of these possessions, it's like, I don't know what they're going to get. They're going to play defense. They're not going to play defense. They're going to go on a 6-0 run, but then they're going to allow the other team to go on a 10-2 run. And they were doing that against a lot of backups. I think they'll be ready tomorrow. I really do. Just I hate when people just want to turn the page so quick and say, all right, that's not going to be a game tomorrow. I hope the Lakers don't approach it that way. Let's put it that way. Valvoline Instant Oil Change, proud partner of Lakers Talk. Oil changes, tire rotations, transmission care, and more. Just pull up, drive in, and drive out in about 15 minutes. Visit SoCalOilChange.com for location and game-winning coupons off your next Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Alan Horton, who does the play-by-play on radio for the Minnesota Timberwolves, I got a lot of questions for him. I think this is the perfect person to talk about that Minnesota Timberwolves team, what's kind of the vibe in their locker room, what's happened between yesterday when everything went down to where they're sitting today. He's going to join us next. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. This is Lakers Talk on 710 ESPN.
So you're winding down with a podcast. Sounds like you have no plans to leave the couch tonight. Nope, you just want to unzip your jeans, slip on a pair of fuzzy slippers, and rip open a bag of Skinny Pop popcorn. Because the only place you're going tonight is the bottom of this bag of popcorn.
It's a whole bag kind of night. It's a whole bag kind of night.
Scott for Scott's here. You ever want to grow new grass faster? Kind of like when you press the 2x playback button on your podcast so you can speed through episodes. Except at Scott's Turf Builder Rapid Grass, you're speeding your way from a thin and damaged lawn to a thicker, stronger one in just weeks. Bit too fast, maybe slow it down. Okay, let's just go back to normal speed.
Get a bag of Scott's Turf Builder Rapid Grass today. It grows grass 2 times faster than seed alone when applied at the new lawn rate, subject to proper care.
Feed your lawn. Feed it.
All right, Lakers taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves tomorrow. Tip-off's going to be at 7 o'clock. Pre-game will start at 5:30. They'll have a game in the Eastern Conference as well. I think it's Atlanta in Miami, so we'll be game 2 of that doubleheader on TNT. Obviously, listen to all our coverage here on 710 ESPN. I want to welcome in the voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves on the radio broadcast. Alan Horton takes some time to join us. Alan, first off, appreciate you coming on the show. I know we did this a lot during the pregame. Before games, and man, it's kind of a fascinating matchup, and I wish we could kind of talk more about the basketball side of things, but there's so many side stories to the Timberwolves. Can you just help as best clarify what happened in the last 24 hours with the T-Wolves?
That was probably the most surreal game I've ever broadcast, and I've been calling Timberwolves games for 16 years. So the Wolves have been playing big, just like the Lakers have. They've been playing big games for weeks now, almost months, to try to stay afloat in their chase for the postseason. And so it kind of culminated. Every single next game is the biggest game. And so Sunday was the biggest game. You didn't want to be stuck in a 9-10 matchup. You want to give yourself as many chances as you can. You want to get in that 8 spot, even though you have to go on the road and likely play the Lakers. And so it was a big game. And that first half was just the Timberwolves had not played well at home, and things weren't going their way. Frustrations were starting to build. Jaden McDaniels, who's a lot of people feel is going to make one of these all-defensive teams. He's been that good in his third year, a really breakout season. Alan, he played the opening 9 minutes, and then we didn't see him again. And turns out somewhere in that first half, he got frustrated when he came off the floor. I think it was when he came off after 9 minutes and had 2 fouls. And he went back up into the tunnel, and he swung and punched a wall. He didn't know there was a wall. It was a tarp there, but behind the tarp was a wall.
Oh, jeez.
So he punches it in frustration, and he breaks his hand. So he's out for, obviously, the rest of the game, and he's out for the season. He's got a broken right hand. This is an all-defensive type player that's not available in the most crucial game of the season. And then late in the second quarter, tempers flare during a timeout, and Rudy Gobert and Kyle Anderson get into it. They're kind of a little war of words across a timeout. One's on one side, one's on the other. And then Kyle must have said something there that really ticked him off. Reports have it that they used the B word. We'll keep it clean on the radio tonight. And, Rudy reached across and didn't punch him in the head, but punched him in the chest. And you just don't, that we've all seen a lot of basketball in our lives, and you don't see that very often. And got pretty heated. Kyle had to be pulled back from going after Rudy. Taurean Prince jumped off the bench. He shoved Rudy. There were multiple people that looked like they were pretty ticked off at Rudy's actions. And then Rudy, I guess it was heated up in the locker room again after Rudy was sent back to the locker room. Then halftime came a couple of minutes later, and it got heated again in the locker room. And so Rudy's been suspended for a game, and he was not with the team on the flight out here to L.A. He will not play tomorrow night, and he'll serve his one-game suspension, and they'll try to move on from this thing. But just kind of a crazy, crazy game. And with all that happening, you come out in the second half without 2 of your starters in the most important game of the year. You're down by 14, and Karl Anthony Towns picks up his 4th foul early in the third quarter. And it's just there's nobody your regular rotation is already spent. Naz Reid is out. Rudy Gobert is out. Jaden McDaniels is out. You've already shortened the rotation here down the stretch, when teams – need to win games, you kind of shorten that bench a little bit. And then the Wolves just kind of came together, and Cat was able to play through the foul difficulty. Anthony Edwards had a monster game, and the Wolves came up with a really big win. They really gelled. The crowd got into it. It was turned into a really fun second half. So that's a very long-winded answer, but it felt like that game kind of deserved it because it was one of the stranger games I've ever seen.
No, it's as good as insight I think we could get on this. You're obviously there for all the games. You travel with the team. It's funny because Jorge and I think that's not talked about enough. There was so much chaos going on, and they were down double digits that they actually came back and won that game. That doesn't usually happen when you have 2 players going at it. When you have what Jaden McDaniels did, he takes himself out of the game. When you're already down double digits, when it's the most important game of the year for both of those teams, you don't usually come back. I want to, just before, has Jaden McDaniels talked at all? I mean, has there been any explanation, or did he not talk yesterday?
No, I don't believe he talked, and so he is with the team, so he's going to be supporting them on the sideline. He did fly with us to L.A., so he hasn't really talked. I think what has been said for him, basically, it was a moment of immaturity, and he didn't realize that there was a wall behind this tarp that was covering the tunnel that goes back towards the locker room, and so he wasn't trying to punch a wall and try to do damage to a wall because walls are undefeated. They always say Father Time's undefeated. So are walls, man. You can't punch walls. And we see this all the time in a variety of different sports, right? Like a pitcher. I feel like pitchers get frustrated and they punch walls or something with their pitching hand. Always a big mistake. It's a good lesson for all the kids out there. Just don't punch walls. It's never going to end well.
Wasn't it Gus Frerotte that headbutted a wall? I think it was Gus Frerotte that did it. Took himself out.
It was somebody. Yeah, you headbutted even a pad. That's even a padded one. That's in the end zone, right? Covering this up against the stands. No, never go head first in anything either. That's not smart either.
Horrid. If our listeners take anything away tonight, it's walk away from the wall. Walk away.
Yep.
Don't let the wall egg you on. Exactly. Okay, on the Gobert thing, and then we can actually get into the basketball stuff. You surprised. I thought this might be one of those, hey, we're going to handle it internally, and then whatever they handled internally, Gobert was going to be on a flight to L.A. for this game tomorrow, just because it's not a regular game or anything. You surprised that it's a one-game suspension?
I actually wasn't, even though taking the circumstances into account. Like, if it's a regular season game, yeah, you're right. That doesn't mean the same as if it's for a play-in game or a playoff game. But I think it was that important. I think that speaks to how the entire team felt about the incident and about Rudy's reaction and actions. I think that probably speaks volumes about why the coaching staff in the front office, led by Tim Conley, who came in from Denver last year, made the decision they did to suspend him for a game. And it could be really costly for the Wolves because it probably, it makes them a shorthanded situation, especially with Naz Reid being out. And we talked about Jaden McDaniels. Those are probably, three of your top 7 players that you're now without. So it's a big decision. It could be a costly decision, but I think if you're going to set the right tone, set the right message, you've got to hold people accountable. I think that's just something that needs to happen in everyday life, from our leaders all the way down to our sports teams. You've got to have accountability, and I think hopefully you come out of this in a better place. And we'll find out about that after this game, whether the Wolves are playing again on Friday at home in the second play-in game, or if they make it and they beat the Lakers and move on to the postseason. We'll see how the Wolves respond from this.
Alan Horton taking some time. He's the radio voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Taking some time to join us here on Lakers Talk. So for the actual game, minus Gobert, minus McDaniels, minus Naz Reid, who maybe a lot of people don't know too much about him, but we've talked about him a couple times, and you've said on a few different occasions what a big piece he was for the Timberwolves. Going into tomorrow's game, what is, you think, the strategy? There's a small, we saw some stats going around today. Hey, without Gobert, this is what the Minnesota Timberwolves have, what's their winning percentage versus when he is there. But it was a super small sample size. If the Minnesota Timberwolves make a game out of tomorrow, what do they have to do against the Lakers?
I think they have to kind of duplicate what they did in the second half against New Orleans on Sunday. They just got to come together as a group, play as one, and defend like hell. That's kind of the recipe they had against Brandon Ingram in New Orleans on Sunday. I guess that was yesterday. Feels like longer ago, but they finally figured things out in the second half, and they got down to just, sometimes you kind of come together as a group when there's only just 5 or 6 of you available. And that's basically where the Wolves are. Maybe it goes 7 with Jordan McLaughlin and Nickeil Alexander-Walker contributing a little bit here and there. But you get down to your bare bones group, and sometimes you just come together. And the defense, I thought, was sensational in the second half. One of their best efforts of the season. And yeah, there are tons of different. The problem with looking at the with Gobert, without Gobert, those games are so fragmented, and they're also most of them were without Karl Anthony Towns even in the lineup, and there's been so many, just like the Lakers have gone through with guys having absences, whether it's LeBron, whether it's AD, whether making deals at the trade deadline, your team's completely remade. It's hard to kind of, even after a big sample size like 82 games, some of the stats don't truly indicate how well a team might or might not play. And so I just think all the Wolves have is what they did in the second half. And the group that played in the second half and the likely starting lineup you're going to see tomorrow night with Mike Conley and Anthony Edwards, Taurean Prince, Kyle Anderson, and Rudy Gobert, they hadn't played a single minute together all season.
Wow.
In the second half, they started together. That was the first time this year. Now, of course, Mike Conley just came over at the trade deadline, so that automatically cuts the season down by, 2/3. But still, they hadn't played a single minute together, and they played 12 minutes in that second half, 12 of the 24 minutes, and they were +8 on the floor and turned that game around. So they just kind of figured things out on the fly, and they just got some guys that got after it and came together as a group. And I just think that's the same kind of mentality they're going to have tomorrow night.
The Lakers finished off the season 18-8. And that was predominantly just kind of right around where the trade deadline happened and kind of getting their group together, 18-8 since all these guys started playing. And that's with Bron missing 13 games. AD missed a couple back-to-backs. D'Angelo really been in and out of the lineup as well. He missed 8 or 9 games or so. What concerns you most? Where do you think the Lakers have their biggest advantages tomorrow? And it's – kind of takes me back to that game that we had a week and a half ago in Minnesota, where the Lakers looked like they were getting outplayed, and Minnesota built a 13-point lead. it was really awkward. It was the moment Anthony Davis went down with his ankle injury that the game completely changed. But what are you kind of looking for based off of what you've already seen from the Lakers, what you saw a week and a half, you think is the biggest advantage for the Lake Show?
Yeah, I think his name is Anthony Davis. That the way he's played down the stretch has just been, I think, has carried that team, and that's saying something because you've got the Hall of Famer in LeBron James and the NBA's all-time leading scorer. There's taking nothing away from him, but I think AD has just played. He's played sensationally, and this is the type of basketball that I guess maybe you saw during the championship run a couple of years ago, but haven't seen a whole lot of since. And so I just felt like, and you're right, that game at Target Center a couple of weeks ago, just when he went down, it's almost as if the whole Timberwolves, and I'm sure all Laker fans were feeling this too. Oh no, there goes AD, he's out again.
Mm-hmm.
This is more of the same, unfortunately, of what we've seen with him continually being injured. But the Wolves didn't score like on 2 possessions when him still down on the floor, and the Lakers, I think, got a 5-0 run out of that somehow. It was a really weird swing, and then AD just pops back up and keeps playing. I don't think he even missed any time. There was a timeout. He comes right back in, and he was dominant. And so, to me, he's the biggest advantage. And so when you look at that matchup of who's going to try to slow down AD, you obviously the biggest person on the floor for the Wolves is going to be Karl Anthony Towns, and he has a really hard time staying out of foul difficulty. He's only played 29 games this year, but he averages 3.9 fouls per game, the highest rate in the NBA. And that's been a problem for him through the years, too, because not only is he, pick up 1, 2, 3 defensively, but he is prone to offensive fouls, which are really crucial because that just adds to his foul woes and getting him into foul difficulty. 2 in a first quarter, 3 in a second quarter, a fourth in the third. And that's something that can't happen tomorrow night. He's got to stay out of foul difficulty. And that's going to be difficult with the way AD and LeBron and everybody attack the rim. I saw a stat today that LeBron and AD, 2 of the rare guys on the same team to average more than 15 points a game in the paint. That's 30 points combined from those 2 guys, and that's something that has got to concern the Wolves, especially without a lot of rim protection. Karl's not a great rim protector. Rudy's a deterrent inside. He can be a factor in there. So that's a big area of concern, I think, tomorrow night.
Well, it'll be fascinating, and I think, listen, Karl Anthony Towns, if he gets in foul trouble tomorrow, then I don't know what the weapons are for the Timberwolves, so that's obviously something to watch.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, that Karl Anthony Towns will try to get AD to come get him out of the paint as well and have to guard him out at the perimeter, and we'll see if that's a benefit to the Timberwolves. But, Horton, I always appreciate the insight, buddy. I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow, looking forward to seeing you down there, and thanks for taking some time to chat.
You got it, Alan. Anytime. It'll be fun tomorrow night. Always a great atmosphere, and hey, it's not the postseason. I keep wanting to say it's the postseason. Let's play it. It's the play-in. It's not
close.
The postseason, but hey, it's close enough. And it's I think the play-in has done an amazing job too. Of there's been some tanking issues and stuff like that the last couple of weeks of the season, but for the most part, it's created a whole lot of excitement. And now you get to these games, which are very good. This won't be an elimination game, but it's close, and there's a lot on the line.
100%, Horton. Thank you, buddy. We'll see you tomorrow. Okay.
All right, Alan. Take care.
All right, that's Alan Horton right there, radio voice of the play-by-play voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves. All right, well, that's the best explanation I could get for our matchup coming up tomorrow against the Timberwolves, and I think it's helpful to kind of have a different perspective. I know we're always getting the Laker perspective, but it sounds like it's a tall task for the Timberwolves tomorrow. The 5 that he's talking about, I mean, they really have no depth without 3 of their top 7 players, like you mentioned. And that's the hole that the Timberwolves have dug, and the Lakers will try to take advantage of it. Final thoughts when we come back. Plus, I've got to spend a little time here. 2 things. Number 1, the rest of the Western Conference. I want to talk a little bit about some of those matchups. Jared Vanderbilt, Anthony Davis, got some sound from them from practice talking about the game tomorrow, so we'll play that. All that coming up next. Stay right here. Appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Lakers Talk on 710 ESPN.
When you travel for business, do you like to nab a window seat or opt for the aisle to ensure a faster getaway? Do you stay at an uptown hotspot with a modernist chef or a homey hotel that's famous for grandma's cooking? However you choose to hit the road, you can earn 5 times points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com with an American Express Business Platinum card. Terms apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-platinum. Amex Business Platinum. Built for business by American Express.
Hammock? Check. Arnold Palmer? Check. Motorized solar shades? Yes, please. Get your home spring ready with Blinds.com. Upgrading your home with custom window treatments from Blinds.com is a small project with a huge impact. Relax and let Blinds.com handle the install. It's easy. Just click installation at checkout. Plus, Blinds.com has a 100% satisfaction guarantee. Save 40% off selected products at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
I appreciate Alan Horton taking some time to join the show, voice of the Minnesota Timberwolves on radio. Yeah, what a weird when we should be talking a lot about the game coming up tomorrow. We're talking about Rudy Gobert getting suspended. We're talking about Jaden McDaniels squaring up against the wall. Still trying to figure that one out. But that's the situation they put themselves in. Still impressive to see them come back yesterday against New Orleans and do what they did. Down double digits, out a couple of their guys. Naz Reid is a good player for them as well. He's out. So there's 3 guys that will not be a part of tomorrow's game against the Lake Show. Lakers, take care of business. Stop playing with your food. 1 week they're playing with their food. Watching every one of these games. Frustrated watching against some of these matchups. But tomorrow's going to be different. Tomorrow's going to be a different vibe. It's going to be the first time that this team they've had a lot of meaningful games. They've had a most important game of the year, so that part's not really going to change. But this is the first time where, all right, hey, we punch our ticket to the playoffs. Just handle this. And, oh, by the way, you get 4 days off. 4 days off for the Lakers. Think about how this team has been grinding all season long and how helpful having that time off can be. Okay, I want to take a quick listen here. Here's Jared Vanderbilt. So today at practice, Vanderbilt was talking about just kind of the intensity of a playing game. You guys remember the Timberwolves. He was on Minnesota last year. They were a part of the play-in tournament and punched their ticket for an opportunity in the playoffs. Take a listen here as he explains what tomorrow's going to be like and just talking about his experience in the play-in.
Man, I'm excited. Obviously, I got some history there. Spent my last, 2-3 years there. So, I got a lot of love and respect for those guys. But, this is a golden opportunity for me, and I'm super excited for it.
What does it help as far as insight into what Minnesota does for a game like this, kind of like you guys scouting?
It helps a lot. I've been there, so I know, what they like to get to. I know those guys personally, their tendencies. So even just helping these guys with scouting and trying to, figure out their game plan and how they operate, it's just much easier, especially since I got a couple guys with me that's also been in that system and played with those guys. So, it's an advantage for sure.
How intense was the playing game you guys played last year? How can that help you guys, you, CeeLo?
It's super intense. It was almost like a, March Madness type of feel. Like, win or go home, pretty much. That's how we viewed it. Obviously we had another opportunity and we did lose, but we treated it like it was a win or go home situation. So the atmosphere was crazy. It was just super competitive. Everybody, really was just playing their heart out. And from us, being in there last year, we kind of know how it is and what to expect. Pretty much same situation. We were at home. We were the 7th seed, and we went on to win and go play Memphis. So that's how we're viewing it this year as well. So it's kind of like the same setup.
That experience can help you guys just coming on too.
Oh, for sure. Like I said, anytime we've been in that exact situation, so we know what it takes. Some of me, Bees, and D-Lo, we kind of just know what it takes. And just don't take this game lightly. Don't look at it like we got an extra game to play. If we lose, we can't look at it like that. We got to look at it like that. We lose this game, we're going home.
You're new to this franchise. Are you eager for your first postseason experience from this fan base?
Say it again.
You're new to the franchise, obviously. Are you eager to see your first postseason experience in front of the fans and everything?
I am. Obviously the fans been great all year, but postseason is, it's a different atmosphere. So I'm excited. to even be in the playoffs, but to also just represent, a historic franchise like this. They got so much history, and it means so much more here, just winning and that culture, that atmosphere. So I'm excited, and, I can't wait.
All right, solid interview from Jared Vanderbilt. I actually really enjoyed listening to it. I like his perspective, like him talking about the importance of the game. It's going to be a fun night tomorrow. It really is. I think the place is going to be rocking. Laker fans are so thirsty for playoff basketball. I know it sounds funny to say. It was just 2.5 years ago they won a championship, but it was in Orlando. It's not even like anybody could support them. There was no parade. There was no nothing. It's just the world that we were in at that time. Now we get back to sold-out arenas and really want to see the Lakers punch their ticket tomorrow, handle business, move on, and get ready to go out to Memphis. Okay, I only got a couple minutes here, so I'm going to try to talk a little bit about this. Rest of the West. Kings and the Warriors. Kind of going to be a fun matchup, to be honest with you. I really hope the Kings give them a run. I really, really do. I really hope the Sacramento Kings give the Golden State Warriors a run for their money. My concerns with the Sacramento Kings, they don't got guys on that team that have a ton of experience in the postseason. We know that. Don't tell me Harrison Barnes. Been a long time. They've made the playoffs since 2006. And they don't play defense. So the two things that you feel like you need in the postseason, experience and getting stops, those are the two things that they don't do. But what the Sacramento Kings have done all season long, they've just consistently won games. They've consistently took care of their own business. I think that starting lineup, they've played as much together as any starting lineup in the NBA, so that means health went their way. I'm sure they're not crazy about the matchup. To get the Golden State Warriors in the first round, Wiggins is going to be back. The Warriors kind of made sure they handled business. The Golden State Warriors are going to get some time off. They're the defending NBA champions. So that's going to be a tough matchup right there, I think, for the Sacramento Kings. But I hope this is a series. I really want this to be a series. Partially because if the Lakers are 7-2, they would be facing the winner of this series. So you want that to be a series. Clippers and the Suns, I don't know, man. I think this is just bad luck for the Los Angeles Clippers. The Clippers, there was a situation yesterday where if they lost that game, they would have ended up in the 6th spot, and they would have then had the Phoenix Suns and the Golden State Warriors in the first round. Yeah, I would have much rather, if I was the Clippers, got the Sacramento Kings and get the Phoenix Suns. I don't think this is going to be much of a series. I really don't. Without Paul George, it's going to be incredibly difficult. And if you want Kawhi Leonard on one side to go give you 35 and 40, then you want him to go on the other side and guard Kevin Durant. That's a tall task. It's tough to see the Clippers really making too much noise, which means if those series go as planned and the Lakers take care of their business, how about the second round could be the Lakers, Warriors, Nuggets, and the Suns? All right, I'm going to stop getting ahead of myself because then I do this and then, I don't want to jinx anything. Lakers just got to take care of the Memphis Grizzlies tomorrow. We know that. Appreciate everybody tuning to the show tonight. Thank you to Alan Horton for being a part of the show. Thank you to Laura Romo, Michael Funches, Mario Ruiz, everybody in the back handling business. If you want to listen, you could listen on the podcast. Just download the ESPN LA app. I'll be back on tomorrow. LA, as always, thank you and have a good rest of your night.